Starting out with the digital currency Bitcoin. So far, it's been able to function tax-free, but the Japanese government wants to change that.
Yeah, Bitcoin isn't actually considered a currency in Japan, so any of those digital transactions that take place have been going ahead without any regulation or taxes. But Japanese officials have been coming under pressure to change that in the aftermath of the collapse of Mt. Gox, the Tokyo-based exchange that filed for bankruptcy last week. Now, a lot of countries have been trying to work out how to deal with this increase in digital trading, as those transactions are seen as a threat for tax evasion or money laundering. Russia, China, and Singapore have all got regulations to monitor how that currency is being used. Now, Japan says that it may follow suit.
If we talk in general terms, it is common sense that the finance ministry should look into how to tax something which you sell and profit from.
Now, the amazing thing, Kate, about Bitcoin is everybody's talking about it. Some people have got rich using it, but nobody actually knows who created it, unless perhaps the identity has been revealed.
Well, we thought it had anyway. The name that goes around in this world of digital currency is Satoshi Nakamoto. He was widely believed to have been the founder of Bitcoin back in 2009, but no one really knew who he was. Now, that mystery appeared to have been solved when the publication Newsweek finally tracked down a reclusive Japanese-American engineer living just outside of Los Angeles.
Right,
yeah, that's him. And so this herd of reporters descended on this man's house outside of Los Angeles. And he surprised everyone by denying that he had anything to do with Bitcoin. He says the Satoshi Nakamoto that everyone talks about isn't actually him. He fled his home where dozens of reporters had been camped out. Some were describing what followed there as a car chase. So that shroud of mystery around Bitcoin.
So he just says he's a different Nakamoto.
He says
from
it's
the one
not
they're
him
looking
at
for.
all. There are a lot of theories about who that actually might be. Some saying it might just be a pseudonym for a group of coders who created the whole system. So we'll hope to find out more about that in the weeks to come anyway. It's really interesting as Bitcoin does gain in both popularity and controversy. We're going to shift gears now and take a look at the markets. Wall Street mostly rising on Thursday after a larger than expected drop in weekly jobless claims. Just the Nasdaq closing down a little bit there. The S&P closing at yet another record high for the 50th time in the past 12 months, if you can believe that. We're seeing mostly positive trading on the Asian markets at the moment. Japan's Nikkei touching a 5-year high early on in the session. Just the Kospi down slightly there. All eyes on another jobs report that's due out in the U.S. later this Friday.
All right, let's look back at one of our top stories of the day, the crisis in Ukraine, of course, and the political turmoil having a very real impact on businesses there.
Yeah, we know that the European Union has announced a financial aid package for the government in Kiev, but we don't really know how or if that might affect business owners there. Many entrepreneurs have been expressing concern about their prospects for surviving the rest of the year. Joe Tandy has more.
Barricades and blocked traffic, bad news for this French businessman.
Our business is based 300 meters away. This is Kiev's main thoroughfare.
Ignace Ertlet's construction consultancy has branches in Kiev and Moscow. The businessman employs around 100 staff, yet in Ukraine's current economic climate, he fears chances of escaping unscathed are slim.
We're in a sector that's very sensitive to variations in investment. If investment falls, as we fear it will this year, we're going to have to make cutbacks.
Over the last few weeks, Ertlet's employees say that private orders have dwindled.
Of course, everyone's a bit scared. I have friends who have already lost their jobs.
The European Union's offering Ukraine an €11 billion aid package. For Ertlet, it's too little, too late.
11 billion, which won't arrive for a long time and which will be spread over a long period. What will be the effect on the Ukrainian economy? I don't think it's that which will save the day.
With the economy on the brink of collapse, Kiev will have to accept painful reforms before Ukrainians get their hands on much of the European cash. Meanwhile, the country's entrepreneurs fear a backlash from Moscow and the prospect of Russian sanctions on Ukrainian businesses.
Finally, Kate Moody, the mood turns dark as you have news of a serious case, actually, it is serious, of economic espionage relating to the world's most famous cookie.
The world's most popular cookie even, which is, in case you didn't know, Oreos. It's that chocolate and vanilla layered sort of delicious treat. Now, a jury in California has found 2 men guilty of stealing an American company's patented recipe for the chemical that whitens that interior part of the Oreos and selling it to a Chinese competitor. Titanium dioxide is a chemical that's used to whiten a lot of things, actually, not just delicious Oreos, also less sort of fun products, things like paper and paint. These men are accused of receiving nearly $20 million from a Chinese company for selling the DuPont factory's patented secret recipe for that chemical. They could face up to 15 years in prison and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of fines. I should point out that it didn't actually affect celebrations for people who were noting Oreo Day on Thursday. That was the cookie's 102nd birthday.
All right, so I guess we've learned that titanium dioxide actually tastes good. Kate Moody, thank you very much for Business News. Thanks a lot. And time to take a look now at what's being written in the French press. Florence Filmino has joined us on set. Florence, good morning. Papers are continuing to focus on tensions in Ukraine, in particular what's going on in Crimea.
That's right. There's one word on the front page of Libération today, and that is escalation. This comes after the parliament in Crimea voted to join Russia and has set a date for a referendum. Now, Libération says that Crimea is really throwing itself into Russia's arms, and Moscow, meanwhile, is saying that it's going to think about it. And this is really annoying the West, according to Libération. The key question is just how far will the Russian president go in this arm wrestling match with the rest? In its editorial, Libération says this is a quick turnaround because at the beginning of the week, it seemed like diplomatic efforts were starting to get the upper hand. So what does Vladimir Putin want? Is this